everybody. Welcome back. All right, so let's get started with the second part of the session here. So let me do a quick check here. How many of you were there for the first session? How many of you attended the first session? You few people. All right, so looks like we have a few new faces here. So maybe I'll do a quick introduction of Purple Book community. Since you missed the earlier part of it. So Purple Book community is a community of about 600 security leaders, started off with 30, predominantly focused on application security, product security, AI, supply chain security, and now the CRA topic that we are going to have. We meet in person at events like this, and we also meet virtually every about once or twice a month in our own session. So whatever dialogue that we're having, so how many of you are actively engaged or actively pursuing a CRA project in your company? Let me ask. Some of you, right? Yeah. So I think there is some, I think you probably are all early birds are getting ready for something like this. There are a lot of people who are not even aware something like this is coming. So this is very, very timely. And I was talking to somebody, I think he mentioned that he had not seen any CRA related sessions at Black Hat or DEF CON.
Yeah. I'll submit one for next year.
There you go, right? So, I mean, in many ways, we are breaking new ground here with the discussions that we are having in Purple Book community. And we have an amazing set of leaders, people who have been in product security, application security for many years. And they will lead a panel with us. And if you'd like to, whatever dialogue that's going to happen, it doesn't stop here. It actually continues in Purple Book community. If any of you have an interest, just Google Purple Book community. Join us as a member, and the discussions will continue from there. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Mark Lambert, and he'll take it from here. Mark.
All right, great. So thank you very much, Raj, and welcome to this session on the Cyber Resilience Act. And as Raj asked for a show of hands, is like who's already aware and preparing. Who doesn't even know how to spell CRA today? Who is like, I'm not really sure. This is not something that's even been on my radar. I'm interested to learn more. All right, one person, but that's actually a promising sign, because I think all the research that I've looked at is that the majority of people don't know that it actually applies to them. And that's really our goal today. This is why we have this fantastic panel of individuals who are working on exactly this problem within their organization. So let's give me an opportunity to introduce them. So firstly, here on my left, we have Jay Wilson. Jay has a dual role CIO and CISO at Insurify, software engineering leader and technology strategist in a former life. So you've gone through multiple incarnations, helping to drive innovation, software solutions from insurance decisions and policy management. So thank you very much, Jay. We're really, as with all of you, very lucky to have you on here. We got Alex Neishut, VP and Chief Architect at Celebrite, driving technical architecture for digital intelligence and mobile forensics platforms. We have Jagadish Namboradi. I always say your last name wrong, so hopefully I got it close last time. Director of Global Product Security at Wabtec, overseeing security for transportation and freight solutions worldwide, and VP of Software Supply Chain Security at Schneider Electric, Cassie Crossley, leading cybersecurity and product security initiatives across global industry infrastructure. And I should point out, Cassie literally wrote the book on software supply chain. So if you have not checked out her O'Reilly book, you should definitely check it out. And if you have one with you, she'll be more than happy to sign it for you. So without further ado, let me actually turn first to you, Cassie.
Okay.
And let's talk about CRA. What is it? Why is it? Why is it important now for people to be thinking about this?
Sure, and we'll cover more of the scope later, but it is anything that you're selling into the European Union that has software components and basically software, firmware, any kind of digital elements. And if you want to be able to sell it on Amazon to commercial customers, anywhere, you have to have what's called a CE marking on it. Just think of like power supplies may have a UL marking. This CE marking is what you're going to need to have in time to be able to sell the product, or else your company is going to be subject to fines and other issues. And so for those of us that are selling hardware devices, operational technology, IoT, all of those areas, there's separate regulations that cover medical devices and automobile. But for everything else with digital components, they are covered under the EU Cyber Resilience Act.
Yeah, and it's very broad reaching. I mean, understanding the scope is really important as well, right? And that's actually, Alex, this is what we were just discussing a few months ago. It is like, what's the scope and impact? What do we need to be thinking about?
Right. This is a fascinating question because at this moment, it's really up to you to even define the scope, to define your exposure, to define does it cover your entire operation? Does it cover only the products you're planning to sell in Europe? Does it include your cloud? Yes. Does it cover your on-premise? Yes. Are you in a good position if you're compliant with the zillion other regulations that are coming from different countries? Maybe yes, maybe no. And then the last part is, is it really a high priority question to start dealing with? And I'm sure that my colleagues here might disagree with me, but I believe that for some companies that would be a top priority. For others, maybe a waste of time.
Yeah, it depends how much free time you have, right?
Yeah, well, we'll have tons of free time.
Yeah.
Because you can't do it later. It's part of the design process and everything else. And if all of a sudden they figure out a few months late, too late, they're not going to be ready.
Right, but that's for Schneider Electrics, right? But if you are a small company or medium company that is looking at two horizons, like 1 year ahead, you have a bigger fish to fry at this moment.
Yes.
Yeah. So there are like really a number of timelines which are associated with CRA. Timelines to start reporting, timelines when it's fully in place. There's timelines as part of response and vulnerability disclosure as well. Jagdish, talk to us a little bit about why, kind of expanding upon why we should talk about it today. What are the timelines on CRA from the point of view of why do I need to start preparing now?
Yeah, I mean, CRA is already kicked in as on December 2024, and September 2026 is when your obligations to report the vulnerability or any incident will kick in, and that time is just for the CRA committee to make the arrangement for reporting the system to reporting, right? So, but by end of 2026 or 2027, 36 months, total 36 months is when you have to obligate with the CRA. So it's very interesting, and also with the reporting standpoint, right? So you have 24 hours, you have to report any exploited vulnerability, and within 72 hours you have to give any additional second follow-ups, and within 14 days you have to completely give all the information about the vulnerability or the security incident. So there are timelines from the implementation standpoint, but from the reporting standpoint as well, you have very specific timelines on the CRA. So that's the interesting thing happening.
Yeah. So we have a deadline when we have to start reporting, which is September of next year.
Yeah.
Then we have a deadline of which we have to have all of the preparation done so we can get our C
completely.
And the marking by then.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's end of
December 2027. Yeah.
Yes.
So if I'm looking at this and I'm a small, startup, right? And I'm like, oh, that's December 27. It's not the case. I need to be worrying about that now. But how can I leverage work that I've already done? Because there are other standards, right? There's DORA, NIS2, SOC compliance. That's another area as well.
Yeah.
What can I do to leverage that?
I think this thing's on. Is it? Can you guys hear me? Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think that what's interesting about this particular regulation is it's more directly targeting software development practices than other regulations have in the past. We have lots of standards that we all follow anyways because it's best practice, but now this is codifying some of those practices, and that's pretty unique. So there's impact on like physical products with the CE stamp and things like that, but for pretty much everybody in this room, we're all kind of in the software business one way or the other, or you're tangential to it. So the impact and the scope and the like how many people are going to have to care about this, it's pretty large. How it compares to DORA, your question, right, is interesting. So Insurity is a software company. We supply software to EU companies, insurance companies that run out of the EU. And DORA was built for the financial services business. And the way they wrote it is they said, well, if you supply services to a financial services entity, then you're a regulated entity too. They call you a critical ICT. But we're not really a critical ICT in the sense that if we go down our insurance, partners, our clients, they don't go down instantaneously. We're sort of a back-end workflow. The way that they wrote that law, and this goes to what Alex was saying, the way they wrote that law is they get to decide whether I'm a regulated entity. If they say I'm a critical ICT, I'm a critical ICT. It's just up to them. And so, which is nuts. I mean, who writes a law that gives you that much latitude to say, I decree you to be a regulated entity? But that's the way DORA was written. Now, I was just doing some research in the back here because, I wanted to be prepared. Thankfully, CRA and DORA were written by two different organizations because I'm pretty sure that the organization that's the DG FISMA who wrote DORA, I think they watched Inception a few too many times. I don't know if you actually read the regulation, but it folds into itself. It's very complicated. It's hard to read. It's not necessarily a high bar as you were telling me, but it's an unknown bar. It's really unclear what you're supposed to do in some cases. Thankfully, CRA was written by a different directorate, and I think maybe it'll be a little bit better.
But they're still not done writing all the vertical and horizontal standards. So we don't know some of what they're going to require. I've been reviewing the drafts on the vulnerability management. It's got SBOM and HBOMs. And so it's in draft. Yeah. So not only do you have to be prepared, but you have to hope we're all done writing everything to actually know what to comply with.
And in addition, there are a lot of definitions still missing.
Yep.
Right. So those things has to come out. So yeah, it is still in work in progress, but they have already set the timelines.
So that's a real problem, right? Yeah. They've set the timelines.
Yes.
We know that very soon the 1 year clock is going to start clicking down, but there are so many unknowns. How do you prepare? I mean, I know all four of you are preparing already. So, maybe we just go and Alex, maybe you start. It's how are you preparing, considering it's kind of like a moving target, it sounds?
Right. So this is a moving target, for one. Second, the way I'm preparing myself is actually by taking my product through the most stringent regulations in existence. We, by the way, Celebrite, the company I work for, does digital forensics. And digital forensics is heavily regulated by government. So FedRAMP High is a very high bar. I'm kind of positive that if I get through FedRAMP High, I should be in that area of code for the CRA as well. But that's let's hope that's a wishful thinking, really, because you know what? I couldn't even understand, and maybe there is a question. Is it going to be a risk-based approach, or is it going to be a very clear, white, black and white, yes or no approach?
Yeah, it's a really good question. In other words, who is going to decide who matters to look at, right? The EU can't regulate every entity in the world. So where is the line? Where are they going to decide? Okay, you're big enough. You matter. Why? I don't know what the criteria is for determining when you fall under the eye of Sauron or not. Right? That's the question, I think.
Yeah, the class 1 and class 2 license, sections, it's very broad on those pieces. And in addition to that, there's other regulations that are leading up to it. Like we have products, and I'm sure you do too, that have to fall and comply to the Radio Equipment Delegated Act, which has Bluetooth and, some of the Wi-Fi radio technologies. And we have to comply as of August 1st. Okay, we already had to comply to that too. And the scope, they say now will be replaced by CRA. They'll retract that. But when you get to the CRA and these scopes, it's like, okay, this one we can self-assess unless they decide to change the rules and the game. So it's such a moving target. It's for you guys too?
Yeah, it's the same, right? So I think for your question, like risk, I think we are looking at risk, no more severity-based thing, right? So adding the exploitability quotient into the vulnerability and looking at the actual risk and then so that's one of the preparation we are working on, right? So adding that EPSS score or the exploitability quotient, because CRA doesn't talk about vulnerability, they talk about exploitable or exploited vulnerability. So unless you add that point, you will not be able to get that. So the second thing is the S-bombs, right? So you need to start looking at S-bombs at least now, because if you are CRA specific, right? So you've got to start thinking about the S-bomb and look at the VIX as well to a large extent. But you need to start looking at the S-bomb, start connecting the risk with the S-bomb as well, right? So it's, so the preparation is going to be long, and you need to have disclosure ready, right? So you need to start preparing your organization. Not many manufacturing or other engineering organizations are, ready for accepting that we need to disclose our product vulnerability to the market or to third party, right? So we need to start changing that culture as well. So that is something interesting thing.
And I think one of the biggest gaps that I see, because we have brand label suppliers, we sell that product from them all over the world. So now all of a sudden we have to require them to follow this new regulation. So you've got suppliers that you're white labeling or brand labeling, and they have to comply, or else you can't resell in that market. And the documentation requirements are very strict and very, you've got a lot of work to do. And let's just admit, a lot of these products don't have great documentation. I mean, if you ever bought something off of Amazon, and I had to pull up my magnifying glass, so I'm like, okay, so it's not going to have in that little bitty thing in that IoT device the information that's going to be required for the EU.
So you're going to have requirements of your suppliers,
yes,
because you're taking the responsibility of CRA within the EU, right? Because
if they fall under the certain class, they have to go get the assessment and the marking, and it has to be under their name, and we have to be able to prove that we have that information.
So Schneider has a massive portfolio.
Yes.
How are you getting your hands around that?
Let's see, hundreds of people. Literally, I mean, there's program management teams and all the different businesses focused on this, managing it from a program level, making sure that we've defined the gaps. We've had external assessors come in and say, is our policies, are our requirements good enough? What are we missing? What are the gaps? So we've done all of that. And again, it's a moving target.
Yep.
So if next year they add another, oh, by the way, this wasn't sufficient on how we're doing things, then we have to go back all the way to those thousands of products. And that's what everybody's going to have to do.
Yeah, and the moving target aspect is not just the law, how it's written, it's also how it gets implemented. Like in the case of DORA, the law largely went into effect this year, but there were some court cases, and some portions of the law have already been struck based on the court cases around third-party vendor management.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to predict where this is going to land. I agree.
Well, let me just summarize it. Beautiful. So we're talking about stressing because of a regulation that is coming around in 2 years time frame. And by the way, we'll have some grace period of another 2 years, but that's okay. We're putting hundreds and hundreds of people in case of Schneider, and the other companies might be putting less, but still a huge investment. And this investment is not in making the product better or creating a new product or making people's life better. So this is the regulation.
This is where you start your stump speech.
Yeah, this is where I start frustrating about the beautiful idea of having one standard that will bind all the software producers. But hey, it costs just too much, in my opinion. And I might have some controversial opinions here. So
I mean, I can agree to disagree with you, because most of the things as a cybersecurity professional, right? So I see what CRA is regulating is something, the basic hygienics we should be following as part of the software development or product development lifecycle, right? So they're asking you to do all the threat modeling or stuff like that, right? So the entire system, so you test it, you make sure that you have the vulnerability, you understand the risk of putting those products out in the market. And so I there are some extra bit like the reporting standpoint, but ultimately it's just the hygienic reporting is what I'm thinking. But
I think it's interesting. I probably sit in the middle on that. I think that the actual, to your point, the principles in the law and what it's asking us to do are things we as cybersecurity professionals should want to do anyways.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
so like, it's not negative, right? We should want to implement security by design, right? I mean, obviously. So that's a
gives
good
us a
thing.
chance,
But the devil's always in the details when it comes to this stuff, right? So it's one thing for me to have the intent and want to build those principles into my business and operate that way, but how I'm going to have to prove that to the EU commissioner who comes knocking on my door, that might be different than how it sounds today talking about it.
Exactly.
And that's ultimately the question, which we don't even know the answer to right now.
it's 80-20 rule, right? By the way, security, for those who does not know or forgot about that, security is not an absolute value. It's a risk management, right? As a security leader, you also define a bar, and sometimes you define it at 90%, because this is acceptable for you. And by the way, you know that to get to 100%, you will need to invest another 90% of the effort. But then comes the regulator, said, okay, no, go all the way up to 100. And that costs a lot, and that's inefficiency. Now, how the regulation can be structured in a way that will help us be efficient, that's a different story. I don't have a magic wand to solve it. But other than that, not the best investment of efforts.
So it's a big, scary thing. You need to do this to be able to sell in Europe. It's a moving target. Should I just wait and just not do anything for 6 months while everything shakes out?
I think it depends who you are. I mean, obviously, in your case, Cassie, it makes sense. You guys have like a swarm, and you're going after it. Like, I would be doing the same thing in your shoes.
I mean, the size we have, I think you don't know whether the 6 months after what happens. So, but it's always good to start the preparation and start working on that. So that's what at least we are doing, right? So we are already preparing for all the requirements, and we have put all the goals and everything.
We're in an assessment phase. I mean, we're assessing it. We're going to communicate what we think the impact is, and we'll be out in front of it long enough, far enough that we can make a decision, and then the shifting sands will shift a little bit more. So I like to try to kind of tie them in closer to the delivery point.
Yes, and software-only companies and software-only products, it's very different than us in the hardware space.
Exactly. I would be doing that. If I were you, I'd be doing what you're doing. In the software business, I want to pull it closer into the deadline just because I don't want to do some part of a law that gets struck or changed or whatever, right?
We have legacy systems and legacy code which is written even before they're born, so we have to work on those things as well.
Yes, exactly.
You need to get some closer view or the risk and all those stuff. So
before you were born, right?
I was talking with one of the Alma code users, and he's saying, I've got technical debt in the product portfolio older than I am.
Yes.
So yes. And I think, especially in the case of Wabtec and Schneider, that's going to be the case, right?
Yes.
So, okay, so, let's kind of try and bring this together real quick and say, okay, I'm going to ask each of you, what should somebody take away from today? What's the, hey, you're back in the office on Monday, you're recovering from an exhausting week at Black Hat. What's the first thing that you should do? And I'll ask you first, Cassie, and we'll go.
Well, I think like on the IT side, we always say asset inventory. Same thing on your product side. You should understand what your product asset library is, SKUs or however you're going to sell. And from there, be able to see if you are potentially impacted, and then have somebody be monitoring and watching and doing that assessment. Somebody needs to own that risk for your company. It's generally the business folks, but as we've seen with most cybersecurity things, they want to leave it to the cyber experts. And this is a product problem, not a cyber problem.
Yep. Great. Jagadish?
I think it is, we need to start thinking about going beyond the vulnerability severity to the risk model and start adding the exploitability, one piece of it, and the other point is the business risk bringing the business risk into the cyber risk. Connect those things and start working on those things. So that is going to be the important thing, I would say.
Okay.
Well, yes. I actually will agree with the previous speakers. What I recommend you to do is come back, look at your product portfolio, read if you have not read the CRA definitions, do that, and then put a calendar with your board, ideally, and present to them the risk, and try to scope the investment, and ask them to make a decision. Because this is not a security decision, as Casey said. This is not a security decision. This is 100% business decision, and there is a business risk, and it will require investment, hundreds of people, or maybe less. This is what I would do. And by the way, even if me as a company is willing to sit and wait, I still want to conduct this conversation with the board.
Okay, so I'm going to try and remember these. Inventory what you've got. Move to a risk-based model. Get business stakeholder buy-in and resource allocation and business decision.
Detox and sleep, of course, but after that,
Yes.
Keep calm, mind the gap, I guess would be my answer. It's not that scary. We have lots of time in front of us. Unless you're a manufacturing organization, then you don't have any time. You freak out right now, leave the room. But if you're a software business, like actually just sit down, like Alex said, do the analysis. This could be a good thing, actually. I would say, in a sense, take the opposite mindset, make it a security problem. Go to your product organization, go to your business and say, we should consider what this is saying and make these changes if you don't already have this in your program, because they're good things. Like I said, these are good fundamentals of a security program from an AppSec security by design mindset. So this could be an opportunity for some people, and you should take it up. But it's all how you look at it.
And product security is definitely driving the bus.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So there's
security is going to drive it, and it depends on your organization. Maybe compliance is a separate org.
Right.
It may drive it more, but partner, reach across the fence, use it if you can to make your program better.
Yeah. So, and actually, I'll add two things to this. One, you can turn this into a business advantage.
Yes.
Because it's not just, hey, this is a risk to the business. It's like, we can compete better in the EU market being ahead of this. And the second thing I would suggest, and we put a big countdown climber in every meeting, so it's less than a year, 2 dates.
Yep.
All right. With that being said, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. It's as you can see, we have broken new subjects. I think new insights on a topic. Maybe we are the first in Black Hat in DEF CON. Looks like bringing up discussions on CRA. and we are some of the best experts here talking about it. So this discussion, as I say, doesn't end here. We'll continue in virtual setting. So if you're interested, please get in touch. And with that, I'd like to give one more round of applause for the speakers here.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
And also, I don't know if you got a chance to talk about this.
No.
Yeah, so actually, Cassie, I've known her for 5 years now, and we got together because she was one of the co-authors of the Purple Book that we have outside. And she suggested at that time, in 2021, I think, and she said, you know what, Raj, there should be a chapter on software supply chain security.
Solar winds.
Three solar winds, right? And then she said, yes bomb. I said, what is yes bomb? And she said, no, believe me, this is a very, very important thing that you need to talk about it. And then solar winds attack happened.
Yeah.
And then he said, you know what, Cassie, you're right, we need to have a chapter on that. But her passion for the subject is so much that she has written a book on that. And actually, on my request, she actually got some of her books, and you have an opportunity to get a signed copy of the book.
I've only got a few,
Yeah.
and if you already have one.
Yeah. So you have them. So thank you all so much. Appreciate your collaboration to this. And a special mention to Alex here, because he has been on this panel for 3 times in a row, like a hat trick. First time.
My pleasure.
And I wish to see you all next year again so that we can break Alex's record.
Yeah.
Or add to Alex's record. Alex will also be there. So thank you all very much. I hope you had a great time and look forward to being part of this community and conversation.
Perfect.